Hi, welcome to Bookie. To unlock more world-class bestseller, please download our app. Just search for BOOKEY at Apple Store or Google Play. You will get 7 days free trial with more features. Today we'll unlock the book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. Have you ever heard of the myth of King Midas and the Golden Touch? King Midas, like many people, believed that he could achieve happiness if he amassed countless wealth. So he prayed to the gods, and they granted him the ability to turn everything he touched into gold. However, Midas soon regretted it, because when he wanted to eat or drink, everything he touched would turn to gold, and he could not swallow his food. In the end, he starved to death in a heap of gold. In an age of abundance, the pursuit of happiness has become the goal of most people's lives. We always believe that as long as we have enough money and a high social status, we can find happiness. Is this true? Hedonists still feel empty after engaging in self-indulgence, and those who seek fame and fortune do not get a sense of security from money and power. Many people live in good conditions, but still suffer from anxiety. On the other hand, there are then people who have a great passion for work and life, and who are very focused in what they do. Wherever they are, they can always enjoy themselves and successfully find amusement in their surroundings. You must be wondering why there are such differences between people, and what kind of philosophy do those who have a great passion for life follow? All your questions can be found in the book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. After reading this book, you will have a deeper understanding of happiness, and you can even become a happier person. Based on the results of a long-term and large-scale study, the author pioneered the groundbreaking theory of flow, and pointed out that the key to happiness is to obtain the optimal experience. This is called flow. The author emphasizes that flow is not just chicken soup for the soul, but a science that allows you to stay focused, efficient, and double your happiness. After reading this book, you can understand what a flow experience is, the meaning of flow, how to achieve flow, and finally understand what true happiness in life is. The author of this book is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He has a PhD in psychology from the University of Chicago, and is one of the founders of positive psychology. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi devoted his entire life to the study of happiness and creativity. He is also a pioneer in the study of flow. His book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience has been translated into more than 30 languages since it was published in 1990, and has been a bestseller around the world for decades. Through learning and practicing flow theory, countless people have gained more control over their work and life, significantly boosting their happiness and changing their lives. Next, we'll unlock the major points of the book in 3 parts. Part 1, Flow brings happiness. Part 2, The conditions of flow. Part 3, Where the flow experience comes from. In the book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, the author Mihaly begins by discussing the following question: why is happiness difficult to achieve? The author goes on to explain the reason for this. First of all, it's because human desires are endless. For example, many people believe that they can achieve happiness if they have money. However, in fact, most people's desire to buy and capacity to consume also increase along with an increase in income. They still feel as if money is never enough. For other aspects of life, such as appearance, work, and family, few people feel a sense of satisfaction from the bottom of their hearts. Therefore, external factors are not the key to our happiness. Secondly, we are always easily disturbed by events in the outside world. Have you ever felt this? When you get home from work, you slump on the sofa and pick up your mobile phone to browse the news or binge-watch short videos. Or you turn on the TV and do nothing. However, after turning off these external stimuli, you always feel empty. In this fast-changing era, we are bombarded with various information every day. It has become more difficult to concentrate and achieve our goals, especially when we are distracted by unwanted information. An information science professor in the United States did a survey. On average, employees in the company were interrupted once every 11 minutes. After each interruption, it took employees an average of 25 minutes to refocus and get back to work. Here, it is worth mentioning a concept proposed by Mihaly, called psychic entropy. Entropy refers to the degree of chaos in a system, and the more chaotic, the higher the entropy value. Mihaly emphasized that psychic entropy refers to the inner disorder that occurs when external information constitutes a threat to people's intentions. It can cause us serious harm, making it difficult to concentrate on achieving any goal. For example, you want to settle down and finish reading a book in the library, but the push notifications on your mobile phone always remind you to check out irrelevant gossip and messages. Disturbed by these messages, you can't make yourself read. Therefore, only by learning to resist distractions and reduce psychic entropy can we do more with less. There are many negative events in life that grab our attention, and most people cannot consciously drive the distracting thoughts out of their mind. The book mentions a worker named Julio. One day, when arriving home from work, he noticed that one of his tires was almost flat. The next morning, the flat tire was even worse, but he wouldn't be receiving his paycheck until the end of the following week. Moreover, he didn't know how to borrow money from others. This problem occupied his mind, so he couldn't concentrate on his work and became restless. In Julio's case, we find that when the internal order of the self is interrupted, some amount of attention will have to be mobilized to deal with the problem. Therefore, the more negative information a person receives, the higher their psychic entropy is, and the more distracted the mind becomes. The opposite of psychic entropy is known as optimal experience, which is also called flow. Mihaly spent 25 years doing a lot of research before discovering flow. He proposed the theories of flow and optimal experience by studying hundreds of successful people in different fields, including artists, athletes, musicians, chess masters, and surgeons. He then interviewed thousands of people from all walks of life. It turned out that their descriptions of optimal experience were almost the same. As one rock climber put it, I continuously pushed myself to the limits of my body, making my self-control become more and more acute. When I defeated myself in the battle that was climbing, I looked back at myself in awe. People often believe that happiness always appears in relaxed and favorable circumstances. However, it turns out that happiness often comes as the result of significant challenges. This is because when people overcome difficulties, they use all their physical energy intently and concentrate on the task at hand. Happiness comes when we are engaged in what we do, completely lose consciousness of ourselves, ignore the existence of other things, and thus obtain an inner peace. Therefore, happiness is a byproduct of flow, not something that can be achieved by deliberately pursuing it. That's all for the first part. To summarize, our inner desires and external distractions make it difficult for us to experience happiness. Happiness is a byproduct of flow. The flow experience refers to a state when we are devoted to something and be intense concentration, and thus obtain an inner peace, thereby generating great satisfaction. Now, let's look at the specific conditions to achieve flow, and what are the required steps to attain it. First, we need to pursue the Autotelic Ideal. Autotelic is a concept proposed by Mihaly, which refers to doing something without the expectation of future benefit, but simply because the act of doing it in and of itself is a reward. Think about it. Does the outside world always set goals for us, and as a result, we often feel constricted by them? When we were young, parents always told us to study hard, and everything would be fine after entering college. As such, we studied hard for many years and finally got into college. At university, the teachers said that the employment situation was grim. It is lucky if you could get a job after graduation. As a result, we prepared to enter the workforce. After getting a job, the boss said that as long as you work hard, get through this tough time, and get a raise and a promotion, things would get better. Our life seems to follow the formula of as long as, and we are always on the go. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "We are always getting ready to live, but never living. Many people are deeply frustrated because it is challenging to meet these expectations. Almost all these expectations are forced on people. Essentially, they are realized by suppressing individual desires. Mihaly believes that the best way to get out of this predicament is to set goals that are autotelic. If the purpose of learning is to get good grades and stand out in the future, it is not autotelic. However, if the purpose of learning is only to experience the pleasure of satisfying one's curiosity, it is autotelic. If the purpose of the hard-working surgeons is to meet the external expectations of helping people, making money, or achieving prestige, it is also not autotelic. However, if they begin to enjoy their work, then surgery becomes autotelic. However, Mihaly also believes that most things we do are neither purely autotelic, nor purely exotelic, but in fact are a combination of the two. Second, we can experience flow in challenging, but controllable activities. Enjoyable activities are often challenging. The challenge is dynamic and of medium difficulty, which has to match our skill level. When analyzing the relationship between the difficulty of the challenge and skill set, Mihaly divided the experience into 3 zones, namely anxiety, flow channel, and boredom. We can only enter the flow channel when the difficulty of the challenge is proportional to our skills. For example, if you play basketball with Michael Jordan, it will be too challenging for you. Even with all your strength, it would be hard to beat him, as such you will enter a zone of anxiety. For Jordan, the low level of challenge will make him feel bored, causing him to enter the zone of boredom. The best way is to find a suitable opponent, so that we can overcome the challenge through hard work, getting to the zone where we can have a flow experience. In addition to the activity itself being reasonably challenging, we should also have the skills it requires. Otherwise, it will be difficult to engage in it. For example, ordinary people who cannot dance won't experience flow by trying to dance like professional dancers. In addition, the skills should also match the difficulty of the activity. If a beginner insists on performing a master-level dance, he will experience a heavy psychological burden because it's too difficult. Thus, it will be hard for him to experience flow. However, if someone has a certain skill set, he will experience flow, even if he doesn't do something in person. A chess master, for example, will analyze how to take the next step for both sides, even if he is just watching others play chess, thus creating a flow experience for himself. Intense concentration can help one reach the state of flow. Many people think that focusing on solely one thing takes a lot of energy, but experiments have shown that concentration can reduce the mental burden. When the flow experience occurs, we can actively block the interference of irrelevant information, and focus only on the information that helps us achieve our goals. Therefore, we become more relaxed. People who are immersed in flow can't feel the passing of time. Think about your perception of time during your favorite class. The bell seems to ring and dismiss class after a short period of time. Einstein was very familiar with this experience. He once wrote to his children, "When you are doing something with such enjoyment that you don't notice that the time passes." In addition to focusing on a single thing, the way we apply our attention can determine the quality of our lives. Let's look at the case of Ms. E. Ms. E was one of the most powerful women in her region in Europe. As a scholar of international reputation, she also built a large enterprise. She often went to conferences all over the world. She also enjoyed arts and cultures. If there were any concerts in the towns where she was staying, she would probably be part of the audience. She would visit museums or study in the library whenever she had time. During her meetings, Ms. E would encourage her driver to visit the local art gallery, hoping that they could discuss what he thought about the paintings on the way home. Ms. E wasted no time in her life and lived every minute to the fullest. By controlling her attention, she directed her energy into constructive activities and acquired great achievements and happiness. We must learn to control our attention and reduce the interference of high psychic entropy. This is the premise of the flow experience. The more focused you are, the more fully invested you become in what you do. By combining individual flow activities, your entire life can be transformed into a unified flow experience, making it easier to find meaning and happiness over the course of a long life. Finally, the reason why we are fully invested when having a flow experience is that we have clear goals and get immediate feedback. The goal of a rock climber is straightforward, that is to climb to the top. By observing their surroundings, the climber will know if the goal is getting closer with each step. The feedback received varies from person to person. Many surgeons can get feedback about their actions from the patient's condition after surgery. No bleeding in the incision is the first step. The removal of the diseased organ means the operation was successful. After that, the suture signifies the end of the operation. The flow experience produced during the surgery process makes them immersed in their job. Some doctors say that even if their salary increased 10 times, they wouldn't want to transfer to the internal medicine department. In their opinion, it must be frustrating for physicians, especially psychiatrists, not knowing whether they can cure their patients. Psychiatric therapy will take years or decades to produce effective feedback results. If the activity lacks clear goals and feedback mechanisms, then we need to learn to set our own goals and give ourselves feedback to find fulfillment. It's hard for a painter to know what his finished painting will look like, but he must have internalized criteria to hold himself to. When the picture has progressed to a certain point, he can feel that this is right, or this is not what I want. Without such internalized criteria and feedback, the flow experience is impossible to achieve. That concludes the second part. The flow experience is not metaphysical but concrete and exercisable. Generally speaking, it is easier to experience flow when we are pursuing the Autotelic Ideal. Flow must be produced in the process of completing challenging and demanding activities. However, if the difficulty level is too high, people will feel anxious because it becomes too hard to reach their goal. If the difficulty level is too low, people feel bored. The flow channel can only be achieved in an intermediate state. As such, we have to set a clear goal for ourselves, and the degree of completion is the feedback we receive. Be sure to concentrate during the process of completing your goals. The more you concentrate, the more intense your flow experience will be. In short, when we choose an activity that matches our skill level, devote ourselves to it, take actions based on the established goals and receive feedback at each step, we can experience flow. Today we are just sharing limited bookie. To unlock more key insights of world-class bestseller, please download our app. Just search for BOOKEY at Apple Store or Google Play. You will get 7 days free trial with more features.